Fella backs a horse called Yella Yella, wins £250,000. Has all his house painted yellow, yellow carpets, yellow furnishings, everything yellow. And he got yellow jaundice and he died and they can't find him. Fella walked in a boot and shoe repair. He says, I've come for my boots. He said, when do you leave them? He says, 1933, Wednesday afternoon, September the 15th. He says, you what? He says, September 1933, the 15th, Wednesday afternoon. He said, this shop's changed hands 15 times since then. He said, well, I'll have to have them. I'm starting work in the morning. He said, have you got the ticket? He said, aye. Gives him a nice clean ticket. He says, oh, it's ridiculous, this, he said. Goes down the cellar, comes back full of the black as the ace of spades. He said, I've got them. Ready Thursday. Magician working the big liners, doing all his tricks, and a parrot on the side there keeps saying, it's up his sleeve, it's down his jumper, it's up his trousers leg. Where's the act? And the ship's boiler's blue. And him and the parrot's on this plank for 4 days. And the parrot's looking at him like that. And after 4 days, the parrot said, okay, I give up. What have you done with the ship? Fellow walks in a hairdresser, says, give us a Tony Curtis. Cut all his hair off just like an egg. He says, you Burke. You know who Tony Curtis is? He said, well, I should do. I saw the King and I 14 times. Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, going through the customs at Heathrow Airport. The customs official said, have you got any LSD on you? Purple Hearts, cannabis? He said, no, what made you ask? He said, well, you got here half an hour before the plane. The Lions were playing the Ants in the middle of the jungle, football. The Lions was all over these Ants, winning 3-0. But the little wide-head Ants fetched a centipede on half-time. Played the game of its life, scored 14 goals. And they're running off at full time, and the Lions captain ran over to this ant, this centipede. He said, I've never seen such fantastic football in my life. I wish he didn't come out in the first half. He said, I was putting my boots on. Hairdresser's winner in Liverpool, Beatle haircut, sixpence. This fellow went in, he cut all his hair off. He said, hey, pal, he said, the Beatles don't have their haircut like this. He said, they do if they come in here. Fellow talking to his mate, he said, I've had a lot of bad luck, he said, with marriage. He said, I wouldn't get married again. He said, I've been married twice. A lot of bad luck. He said, why? He said, well, first wife died eating poisoned mushrooms. What about your second wife? He says, fractured skull. He said, how was that? He says, she wouldn't eat mushrooms. Fellow walks in this pub, pinches a boomerang off the wall, and the landlord cops him, and he shoved it up his jumper, you know. Slung him out 78 times. Fellow walks in the doctor, he said, how do I stand, doctor? He said, you live to be 80. He says, I'm 80. He says, what'd I tell you? On site, Granada comes to Wythenshawe Estate, Manchester. Get the picture in the studio, Councillor Smith, Councillor Jones, Councillor Brown. Sat in champagne bucket chairs, smoking King Edward cigars, sipping Napoleon brandy, fitted carpet, the best of everything. Where's the punters on Wythenshawe? In the pouring rain. Hey! Are you there, Ray Gosling? Yes, I'm here. And I'm very stood here, I'll tell you. Are we on the air yet? We're on now. Good evening. On site this week comes from Wythenshawe Estate, Manchester, and we have a Mr. Mitchell off the estate who has a complaint for Councillor Jones. Mr. Mitchell. Thanks very much, son. Thank you. Councillor Jones, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. It's about our roof. Yes, we want one. £4.15 a week for these houses, councillors, a disgrace. We've got bugs. Well, pull your bed away from the wall. We've done that, they pull it back. I threw a bucket of petrol on them the other night to come out on motorbike. I'm sick of these houses, I'll tell you. The walls are that thin, I opened the oven door the other day, there's a fella dipping his bread in our gravy. And another thing, councillor, I think I'm the only one that works up here. There's some right layabouts live on this estate, I'll tell you. Fella next door to me, last job he had, school prefect. One of his insurance stamps was worth more than a penny black. He's been on the dole that long, he goes to the staff dances. Now listen, councillor, what are you going to do about the pond at the bottom of the garden there? What are you going to do about that pond? I've been complaining about 14 years about that pond. Now you're doing nothing about it. Well, Mr. Mitchell, can I... What are you going to do about that pond? Can I speak? What are you going to do? Well, Mr. Mitchell, if you don't let me speak, I won't be able to tell you. Now just settle down, please. We know all about this pond. And we had a meeting only last week, the Town and Country Planning, about this pond, Mr. Mitchell. And we're going to send you 3 ducks. Lancashire lad goes to the vets, flat cap, white raincoat, galoshes, Woodbine. He said, I've come about me cat. It's poorly. He says, is it a Tom? He says, no, I brought it with me, he said. Fellow went to the psychiatrist, he said, I can't stop telling lies. He said, I don't believe you. Tramp walks in the doctor's. The doctor says, get out of here, you stink, you smell. Get out of here. Smell, get out. He said, the doctor next door told me that. He said, what are you doing in here? He said, I wanted a second opinion. Little old woman goes in this greengrocer's shop. She said, £5 of potatoes. He said, will you take King Edward? She said, no, let him come for his own. 2 drunks walk in this hotel. Well sloshed. Straight up to the reception. He says, come here, pal. Have you got a room with 2 single beds in for me and Charlie? He said, certainly, sir, room 309. And they're both that drunk, they can both get in the same bed. He says, Charlie, that fella's twisted us. He said, we're getting 2 single beds, there's someone in bed with me. He says, Fred, there's someone in bed with me, I know. He said, well, I'm going to sling mine out. And he gets hold of Charlie and bang, right down the wall. He said, I've slung him out, Charlie. He says, Fred, mine slung me out. He said, well, don't bother. Get him with me. Mr. Kosygin was inspecting 3 ranks of troops in the Red Square. All very quiet. And all of a sudden, ashoo! He says, who sneezed? Not a titter. Who sneezed? Nothing. He says, Sergeant, shoot the front rank. Steps over. He says, right. Who sneezed? Nothing. Sergeant, the second rank. Now then, who sneezed for the last time? Little Russian soldier says, Comrade Kosygin, it was I. He says, you? Bless you. Beethoven's valet went in, he said, I'm leaving you. He said, how do you mean you're leaving me? You've been with me 22 years. He said, I'm sick of hearing you playing the piano morning, noon and night. It cost me £6 a week for Aspros. He said, you can't leave me after 22 years. I get my inspiration from you. He says, me, don't make me laugh. Ha 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 ha. Fellow pays 400 quid for a diving lung, aqua kit and all the lot. Dives off the deep end at Newquay. He's down about 4,000 foot. Little fella there in a bikini. He thought, 400 quid for this equipment, I've been conned here. 10,000 feet. This fella follows him down. 400 quid. Straight to the bottom. This fella's there again. Gets his slate out. I've paid 400 quid for this equipment. How come you're down as far as me? And the fella writes back, I'm drowning, you nit. Family on this estate wouldn't pay any rent, so they sent the bailiff up with a blue paper, summons, under the door. They had a pair of bellows the other side, blew it back. So he shoved it under again, they blew it back again. It's gone on for about 4 hours. Takes the summons back to the town hall. He said, you get the rent? He said, no, and I wouldn't pay any rent for a drafty bloody house like that. Fellow walks in a pub like that. Landau said, a bit of shell shock, pal. He said, no. He said, I can tell the time with this. What time is it then? He says, 11:15. I said, you're wrong, it's 11 o'clock. Oh, he said, I'm slow. Mr. Kosygin's going round this big factory with Ted Heath. He said, what time they start work here? He said, well, they start about 8 o'clock, clocking on, he said. In Russia, they start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Any breaks? Oh, he said, they knock off about 10 o'clock, all this wagon comes up and cup of tea and that. In Russia, no breaks. How long for dinner? He said, well, you get an hour. He said, something like a bet. He said, they take an hour and a half. In Russia, 10 minutes for dinner. Sandwiches, Russian sandwiches by the machine. What time they finish? He said, oh, they're pumping the bites up at 4 o'clock, he said. All of his children's hour, he said, on the television. In Russia, they work till 10 o'clock at night. 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night in Russia. He said, you couldn't get these lads to do that. He says, why not? He says, because they're all communists.